This weekend, well, today, Saturday, is the beginning of 2 days racing, just local racing at Conwy. Well, rather than watching it, I thought I'll take part in it. I don't think a motor sailor will do very well though, but I should enjoy having a go. I'm getting ready to move off the pontoon here, and the water's ripping past me. It's showing over a knot there. Feels a bit quicker than that really, as it flies by. So let's get this show on the road, go out and have some fun. The forecast for today, it's really light airs, northeasterlies I think they were. About the only chance we'd have of getting somewhere are light airs, because we got an oversized Genoa, so that'll work with light airs, but when it's rolled up a little bit, it doesn't do much very well unfortunately. 8 to 10 knots of wind will do us. It'll give us a fighting chance if nothing else. Oh, and you do know we don't point very well, so light airs and not into the wind, and that should help a little bit as well. There's two different races being held out here in Conwy Bay today. There's Class 1, which is the boats that are going to use spinnakers and the likes, and there's Class 2, which is classed as white sails only and no spinnakers and the likes. We've obviously chosen Class 2. We've got a spinnaker, but we don't think we're very well at fighting with it against others. So as we get out into the bay, we find there's not much wind and we can't make much speed. 5 knots of it, not going to go very fast in that, but then knows anyone else. Now, Class 2 will be the second race to start, so Class 1 will have to go first. Everybody's just having a feel of the wind and trying to set the boats up according. But if you look at the water, ain't much wind down there in the bin bags. Now the Class 2 race is being run as a pursuit race. That means the slowest boat's going to get off first, followed by the next slowest and so on until the fastest boat starts at the end. And all being fair, if there's a finish line, we should all get to it at exactly the same time. But clearly, the lead boat at the end of the race is the winner. So me, being on Swallow, I've got the slowest boat, so I'll be first to start across the line, and hopefully I won't be last to finish. As you all know, Swallow's not much of a racing boat anyway, but taking part and making numbers up just goes to make it a little bit more exciting for everybody else. And I do think you learn a little bit about yourself and the boat while you're doing it. Well, they've just called the course out and the Class 1s are getting ready to set off, and the courses are northwesterly heading to start with, starting into the wind. Time for a pre-race brew, I think. Well, the course is to start here and set off this way into the wind to the first mark, put that to port and round that to the next mark, round that to port again and back to the start line. Well, here we have the Class 1s getting ready to start.
10.
The motorboat forms part of the starting line, and so does the yellow boy.
2, 1. Line is clear.
Well, that's the Class 1s gone, so 5 minutes later it's Class 2s. And the slowest boat's going to go first, and guess who that is? Yeah, it's me. He's the slowest boat. Best get a move on, because Pip's 1 minute behind him and he's sitting on his backside waiting to start. Well, that's the start, so I suppose we're off. And as you can see, it's not a very exciting start. I'm not screaming along and there's not lots of wind. But everybody's in position behind me just to catch me up as soon as there's a gust. And they get a start, of course. Well, as I've got a head start, I fear I may as well use it. So I'm doing everything I can to try and keep my little bit of a start I've got before everybody decides to pass me by, which will probably come sooner rather than later. Lisa's doing a little bit of camera work because I think I'm concentrating, or I'm trying to. I'm pretending I know what I'm doing. Not very well. Well, this is the hardest bit for me because it's the windward leg. If I get round this first buoy, I should be able to sail quite happily down the downward leg, and on the reach on the next one, it should be fairly good as well. So let's get away from this start line as quick as we can, because there's plenty of boats waiting to cross behind us. And we can't seem to shake Pip off. She started 60 seconds behind us and she's staying 60 seconds behind us. And now they're all off. Everybody's coming. We're all heading towards that first buoy. Well, I can just about feel the air increasing just a little bit, and Swallow picks up a little bit of pace, which makes me quite excited. I think I'm getting somewhere. Well, I'm getting somewhere at this present moment in time, and all I want to do is get round that first buoy, and I feel like I've done something. But unfortunately, there's boats all around me now ready to take over me, all picking different positions, and I'm not sure if this one's actually in the race, because I'm sure he started the wrong side of the start boat. So maybe he's not and maybe he is, or maybe I need to play my tape back and have a look. But I'm still going quite well, heading towards the first buoy at the moment. I'd sailed quite far out before I put this first tack in, and now I'm coming in towards the buoy with an angle on the buoy, which is making me feel like I'm actually going to get somewhere. Some weird creases in that mainsail sail, isn't there? Makes it look like I've got it too tight for the conditions. Probably should slap my own wrist there. But really, these are the most ideal conditions for Swallow at this moment in time. I don't want any more wind, because that'll power up the powerful boats behind me, the ones with maybe shorter sails, and I need the wind not to drop any to keep these filled the way I'm going now. Now he's slowed down a lot, which means I've slowed down a lot. If you look at my wake there, it's turned just to little bubbles, so the wind is all but virtually gone, and you can actually see now that his foresail's more or less empty, and mine feels more or less the same way. Well, everybody's sort of ending up towards this buoy now, and the reason is we're all getting in a shadow of wind just below the Great Horn. Now, there wasn't a lot of wind anyway, but that big rock there, well, that takes what there is out the way. So all the boats are getting to this point, and there's the buoy to pass over there, but nobody seems to be able to quite get to the buoy. And the reason is there's a little bit of tide, and the little bit of tide is flowing inland from the buoy at about half a knot. So as you gasp a little bit of air and you go along towards the buoy, and if you look at these sails round here, nobody's gasping much air. It's very hard to move at all. Now there's little pockets, you can see Pip shooting away there, but he's actually sailing away from the buoy, and I'm not even sure if he's realised he is. The buoy is behind him almost by 180 degrees, so I think he's thinking of putting the tack in behind that other boat and seeing if he can make his way along on the same tack that other boat's making. Everybody seems to be pointing in a different direction, and there's no pattern to where the air is. You just think you're going forward and the air curls right round and you're pointing 180 degrees the other way, and Pip's still going the wrong way. Now it looks like Free Will, coming along here, has decided to pole out as Genoa. Now I'm not sure what he's got up his sleeve, because I still think the wind's very tight on that first windward mark, and you don't need a pole for going upwind. Split decisions packed with the lifeboat crew. They were out yesterday and all very busy, so they're all having a day off today on split decision to see how well they can do. Everybody seems to not know which way to go and not know which tactic to apply. But one thing's for sure, everybody's giving it a go. Just when you think you've got the wind on the right side, it's moved to the other side. It's very, very fickle. And you see a boat next to you has got a little bit of wind and he's moving, and you think, where's he getting his wind from? Because there's absolutely nothing here. But the same thing seems to be happening everywhere. One boat going one way, one boat going another. Nothing's working out the way we're planning here, and that little bit of half a knot of tide across the yellow buoy is pushing us further and further away. Every time we get close to it, we get a little bit further away from it next time we look at it. Well, it's definitely becoming a struggle, and what's entered my mind now is all as you need to be is close to the buoy at the end of the race, because it's wherever the end of the race ends time-wise which will create the positions. Oh, just look over there in the distance. There, right in the middle of the screen now. That's Steve Gorst on Free Will. He's got round the buoy and he's heading away. How did that happen? Didn't see that one coming. Well, I think I'm going to make myself a new tactical plan now. if Steve's got round and it doesn't look like any of the others are going to get round in a hurry, I think all as we need to be is closest to the buoy come the end of the race. Being nearest to the buoy, if we've not got round it and none of the other boats have got round it, will give us positions, and that's how they'll allocate them, whoever's closest to the buoy. So I don't need to concentrate on getting there now. I need to concentrate on working out when we're going to end and which way I can sweep to get closest to it. And hopefully that should pay off some way. So now that I've got a bit of a plan, what I need to do is get away from the pack and get towards the buoy. As you can see, he's miles away at the moment over there because we're getting further and further away from it. So I do exactly that. I get away from the pack and then I get myself a run where I first ran in from, and I'm sailing in towards the buoy from much higher up now. There's another boat coming in there, but the rest of the pack are miles away. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There's the finish. Well, Free Will was the only one to get round the mark, so he was clearly first. And I think Annika is quite close to that mark, so he probably is second. And it looks like, well, either me or Joy de Vive would have fallen into third or fourth place, either or. Well, we feel like we've done all right as we motor back into Conwy. Go and have a couple of pints and celebrate. Not coming last. The next day, we head back out, same racing ground, slightly different course. Wind's supposed to be now in a southwesterly direction today. Well, they're all coming out the marinas and pouring down the river. One by one, they're going to end up out here and find that there's not much wind at all. Today's course is a triangle, starting again in this area, heading off down here, round this mark to starboard, up to this mark, round to starboard, back to the beginning again, and then keep the course going. And whoever's in the lead at the end is the winner. Well, that's the Class 2s anyway. With the wind I can feel now, I think this fella's favourite to win anyway, but I don't think he's registered up for the racing. There's still an odd couple of the Class 2 boats actually to get out here to the start line. The Class 1s are all ready to go more or less, and just waiting for the final countdown. The wind is supposed to be a southwesterly, but it doesn't feel like it's a southwesterly yet. It feels like it's actually the opposite from a southwesterly, and it's still got a bit of northeasterly in it. Well, that might suit me as a start. A run and start rather than attacking one. There's the start boat, so just need a start line now, and we'll be ready to go. So a yellow buoy needs to appear from somewhere. A little bit of practice sailing, and I seem to be miles from the line now, and the line's set now. Everybody's ready, except me and the Class 1s, because they haven't gone yet, but they're all bunching up there getting ready to go. Not many of them have got the foresails up, but some of them have. Well, I have a little motor around, having a look on the water and seeing if I can see any better patterns in any particular place to get me a start. But unfortunately, it don't look like there's going to be much wind today at all. If I'll even get across the start line, it'll be a good job, I'm sure. Well, a couple of minutes to go now for the Class 2s, and they're all sitting on the line, jostling for a good start position. Well, they'll soon be on their way, and when they start, I'll only be minutes behind them, about 5, I think. The Class 1s are mostly rounding this mark at the moment, and I'm coming up behind them just here. Unfortunately for me, the rest of the Class 2s are all the way back here. And there they are, having to use these light airs to catch me up. Well, this bunch, the Class 1s ahead of me rounding the first mark there to starboard. They're the race ahead of me, so I'm glad I've caught them up. But it's by fluke, by nothing else. And there's an odd couple of them making the next mark. That's probably one of them, and that's the leading boat over there, so there's quite a distance between them. Lisa's keen on the helm at the moment. Well, I've still got my lead and I'm heading towards the third mark, which I've got to round and carry on. What is actually happening now is the wind is filling in from the southwest from here, which has empowered every boat behind me, and they're all piling towards me now, rounding this top mark. while I'm still in the doldrums. You can see the breeze they've got on the water, and you can see the power in the hulls and the sails now. And you can see it's all behind them. As it gets closer and closer to me, it just disappears, and that's zoomed in on them. Now we're a full leg away from them, but it doesn't take them long to catch us because they're all flying along at 5 or 6 knots. It's quite hard to believe that there's an air front behind me, and the boats that are leading the pack, they're all getting the wind and using it and flying towards me, while I'm sitting here in the doldrums with them catching me up like Billy-O. And yes, I know it's hard to believe and it looks like 2 different days and 2 different races, but these are the Class 1 boats and I'm ahead in the Class 2s with virtually only enough wind to ghost with knowing that behind me there's an air front coming through with them all sitting on it and flying along. As I look back from my boat that's hardly doing a knot through the water, I can see everybody catching me up and my lead diminishing by the second. They literally have all the wind and none of it's here. And obviously that's because it's coming from behind them and they're sitting on the front of the breeze being pushed along by it. But as you can see, everybody here is just getting gasps of it, little bits of it, and is just heading towards that next mark. As I turn round now, I notice the boats are powered coming into me and are flying. And I still haven't started picking up speed yet because it's not hit me. It's just slowly creeping towards me as all the boats coming at me have all got 5 and 6 knots on. As we begin to round the 3rd mark, you see the wind starts coming in and starts hitting the boats, and we're just now starting to feel the wind, and the boats that can accelerate are starting to do so, but I haven't started accelerating just yet because I haven't cleared the mark yet. Then we've got to go against the wind up to the finish line, which unfortunately for poor Swallow, who doesn't like fighting her way to windward, is where most of the boats overtook us and her lead was lost. Well, not to worry, we put in a good show anyway. This is how the race results went. On the first day, this was the results for the Class 1s. And this was the result for the Class 2s. And as you can see, Swallow got herself a 4th place there. These were the results for the Class 1s on the 2nd day. And the results for the Class 2s. And as you can see, Swallow got herself a 6th place here. So Swallow's end result after the week's racing was an excellent 5th place overall, which I think is fan-dabby-dozy. Not at all bad for a motor sailor. On the Sunday evening, the North Wales Cruising Club held their prize-giving evening for the racing and associated events.
To do this for a couple of years, it's really, really good to see you all here. I think you'd all agree we've had a couple of really good days racing. Yesterday was a bit of a challenge in the light winds, but today we had everything, didn't we? Started off light and ended up with 20 knots, so it was a really, really good day racing, and I'm glad you all enjoyed it. So what we've got here, we've got all the cups for the event, and so there'll be a cup for an awful lot of people here. So
It's for you two, is it?
So Carl's going to do the presentations, I'm going to hand out the cups, and Joe and Vaughan's going to actually give the cups out. And then we've also got some beer and some gin and some wine as well. So without further ado.
Okay, so first of all, we want to make a presentation to our race officers before we present anything else.
So the race officers.
And so the night goes on, and there is strange things that happen, but they're only coincidences because we were all there to actually see them. And although Steve and Carl are giving out the trophies to everybody else, they get to receive a few themselves. Steve, skipper of Free Will, come in first place overall of the Class 2 racing. And Carl, skipper of Hestrel 2, come in first place overall as well. on the Class 1 racing. So it's very fitting that both of them are standing up there giving everybody else their prizes, because they get to give each other their prizes as well. So I think it's very well done to both Steve and Carl for the organisation that they put into this and the effort, and also to both of them for sailing their boats exceptionally well and winning their classes. So well done, Steve and Carl. Well, the award given cracked on for another 3/4 of an hour, so I'm not going to play the rest of that to you, but if anybody'd like a copy of it, you're welcome to it.